Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about a powerful topic that can transform your life. The power of faith creates the reality you desire, inspired by the teachings of Napoleon Hill, author of the classic Think and Grow Rich. If you want to learn how to use faith to achieve your biggest dreams, this content is for you. Before we start, please like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any news. And of course, share this video with someone who needs an extra dose of motivation today. Don't forget to comment below what you think about the power of faith in your life. I really want to hear your opinion. Let's discover together how to transform your desires into reality with the strength of your mind and faith. Napoleon Hill used to say that his journey began with a mission given to him by Andrew Carnegie to discover the formula for success. Over the course of more than 20 years of interviewing men like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and Alexander Graham Bell, Hill began to notice something that went beyond intelligence, hard work, or opportunity. There was a subtle but constant energy present in all great achievers. It was faith. It was not a religious faith, although many of these men were also spiritually connected. It was a practical faith, an inner conviction that the goal would be achieved, even when everything around them suggested otherwise. Hill, still skeptical at first, wondered how so many different men, in such diverse fields, could carry such firm certainty in the face of the unknown. He realized that this faith was not born by chance. It was cultivated. Through repeated affirmations, mental visualizations, and a systematic refusal to accept doubt as the final answer, these men created within themselves a kind of emotional certainty that anticipated success. They saw, felt, and believed before any physical evidence was present. Hill began to experience this in his own life. When he wrote the first chapters of Think and Grow Rich, he was still under great financial pressure, with few resources and no guarantee that his work would be accepted. Yet he continued to write with the faith that the book would reach millions, and that it would change lives. This faith drove him more than any external motivation. The key for Hill was understanding that faith is the element that gives life to desire. Desire, by itself, is just a thought. But when fueled by faith, true, emotional, visceral faith, that desire becomes a creative force. It becomes a mental image so powerful that it begins to shape behaviors, decisions, and circumstances around it. In his classic book Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill presents faith not as an abstract feeling but as a scientific and practical element of success. He states that faith is a state of mind that can be induced by autosuggestion, that is, by the constant repetition of positive thoughts and affirmations of purpose. For Hill, the human mind acts like a fertile field. That which is planted and nurtured with emotion and repetition grows, whether positive or negative. He states clearly, faith is the starting point of all accumulation of wealth. This phrase is not a metaphor. Hill saw faith as a transmutative force, capable of converting simple mental impulses, such as desire, into physical equivalents, opportunities, business, money, relationships. Everything begins with thought, but it only becomes concrete when that thought is clothed in faith. In studying hundreds of millionaires, Hill found that they all had an unshakable belief in their ability to achieve whatever they set their minds to. This faith was not passive, it was active, combative. Even in the face of failure, they maintained a firm conviction that they were on the right path. They did not expect to win, they knew they would. And this certainty influenced their decisions, energy, and persistence. Hill also teaches that faith can be developed by anyone, regardless of background, education, or financial situation. It is born of habit. Faithful thoughts generate faithful emotions, which fuel consistent actions. Repeating this cycle causes the mind to accept as truth what may at first seem like just a bold idea. According to Hill, the mind does not distinguish between an actual experience and a belief sufficiently repeated with emotion. In other words, to create the reality you desire, you need to feed your mind with conviction until it believes. And when the mind believes, it mobilizes all its internal and external resources to transform that belief into concrete reality. Napoleon Hill saw the human mind as a true creative field, where everything that exists in the physical world originated as an idea. But for this idea to become reality, it needs two essential ingredients: burning desire and absolute faith. For him, thought alone is like a seed. It has potential, but it needs emotional energy to sprout. Faith, then, is this vital energy, the mental fertilizer that gives life to desire. In his words, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. This statement is not just inspirational, it is at the heart of Hill's philosophy. He believed that external reality is a direct reflection of the internal reality we cultivate every day. If the mind is filled with doubt, fear, and indecision, that is what manifests in life. But if it is filled with conviction, enthusiasm, and clear mental images of success, it begins to attract, shape, and create exactly that in the physical world. Hill also describes the mind as being highly influenced by repetition and emotion. Desiring something superficially is not enough. You have to desire it intensely, with real emotion, and combine that desire with faith, a faith built through constant visualization and autosuggestion. The brain, by receiving these commands repeatedly, begins to accept the new scenario as real even before it exists. As a result, the person acts, speaks, and thinks as if they already own what they desire. And that changes everything. He saw this process as a natural law. Just as fire heats and gravity pulls, the combination of desire and faith inevitably creates movement toward achievement. The mind connects to opportunities, resources, and ideas that previously seemed invisible. It aligns with what is being projected within. Napoleon Hill firmly believed that reality is ultimately a mental creation empowered by the emotion of faith. It is not enough to want it. You have to believe it with enough intensity to make the universe, or, as he called it, infinite intelligence, respond. Napoleon Hill devoted an entire chapter of Think and Grow Rich to autosuggestion, which he called the link between the conscious and subconscious minds. To him, it was the precise method by which faith takes hold in the mind and begins to transform desires into reality. It is not wishful thinking, but a systematic process, a practical technique for reprogramming the mind and creating a belief so strong that it becomes reality. The formula is simple, but it requires discipline. First, you need to define with absolute clarity what you want. It cannot be a generic desire, such as I want to be rich. It has to be something specific, such as I want to earn 100,000 reais by the end of the year with my own business. Second, this desire must be written down, read out loud twice a day, preferably when you wake up and before you go to sleep, and always accompanied by intense emotion. Emotion is the fuel. Without it, the suggestion will not penetrate the subconscious. Hill was emphatic. Consciously repeating emotionally charged words transforms fragile convictions into unshakable faith. Over time, the mind begins to accept those statements as reality. And as it does so, it begins to act on this new belief. Thoughts shape feelings. Feelings shape attitudes. And attitudes shape results. Another important point in the autosuggestion formula, according to Hill, is to eliminate doubt. The subconscious does not respond well to confusing or contradictory commands. If someone says they want success but is constantly complaining about life or is constantly afraid of failure, they are sending mixed signals to the mind. And the mind, in this case, does not respond clearly. Hill insisted that we should guard our thoughts like a banker guards his safes, immediately replacing any negative thoughts with affirmations of power, focus, and faith. Autosuggestion, then, is the practice of planting faith, daily, in the fertile soil of the subconscious mind. This is how the impossible begins to seem possible, and, later, inevitable. For Napoleon Hill, no one is born with faith. It is built. And the most powerful tool for this is the words you repeat to yourself every day, silently or out loud. Napoleon Hill never romanticized success as something easy or guaranteed. On the contrary, he argued that obstacles and doubts are inevitable, and more than that, they are conscious tests sent by life to prove whether you truly deserve what you want. For Hill, these difficult moments are not signs of failure, but invitations to strengthen faith and reaffirm commitment to the greater goal. Hill has faced many challenges in his own journey. While writing Think and Grow Rich, he experienced financial hardships, family crises, and periods of total uncertainty. At one point, he says, he was practically forced to abandon the project due to lack of resources. Yet something inside him persisted. He describes how, even when external reality seemed to crumble, his mental vision of success remained intact. This vision fueled his faith, and his faith, in turn, kept him going. Hill taught that doubt is the bane of achievement, but he also acknowledged that it is a natural part of the process. Doubt arises whenever we try to push the boundaries of our mental comfort zone. When you set a big goal, something inside you, conditioned by fear, past, and insecurities, rebels. This is when faith needs to manifest itself, not as a weak feeling, but as a firm decision, to move forward despite the fear. He believed that obstacles are often the way infinite intelligence, as he called the universe or God, measures the strength of your determination. If you back down at the first adversity, you show that your faith was superficial. But if you keep going, even when everything seems to be against you, you transform yourself internally. According to Hill, this is where the great leaps of consciousness occur, when faith is no longer a hope, but a certainty. Furthermore, Hill emphasized that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. But this seed is only activated when the individual responds with perseverance, courage, and faith. He saw temporary failure as part of the journey, not the end of it. And those who understand this become mentally unbreakable. For Hill, tests are inevitable, but it is precisely these tests that shape character and build true faith. Faith that resists time, criticism, fear, and continues to create the desired reality, even when everything around us still says no. Napoleon Hill left a legacy that transcends financial success. His magnum opus, Think and Grow Rich, is not just a manual for getting rich, it is a treatise on the creative power of the human mind. Hill spent decades studying the world's most successful men and concluded that faith was the most powerful and common trait among them all. But this faith did not come by chance or luck. It was deliberately built, nurtured daily, and used as a tool to transform the invisible into the visible. What Hill left us is a mental model for consciously creating reality. He taught that the outside world does not shape the inside, but rather the opposite. What you deeply believe about yourself and what is possible ends up becoming your actual experience. That is why he insisted on the importance of controlling your internal dialogue, cultivating clear thinking, and, above all, keeping your faith alive, even, and especially, when nothing seems to be working. Hill wasn't talking about blind faith. He was talking about a faith based on burning desire, clarity of purpose, and conscious repetition of what one wants to create. To him, the human mind was like a radio station. When tuned to thoughts of success, self-confidence, and gratitude, it would connect with ideas, people, and circumstances that could make those thoughts a reality. It was a mental and vibrational process, and anyone, from any background, could learn it. Over time, thousands of people have applied his principles and radically changed their lives. This is part of his legacy, proving that it is not circumstances that define destiny, but the quality of faith with which you face and transform those circumstances. He offered not just inspiration, but a roadmap, and made it clear that the power to create lies within each of us. Faith, for Hill, was the invisible ingredient that activated everything: ideas, courage, persistence, focus. Without it, desire is just fantasy. With it, desire becomes a plan becomes action, and action generates results. His life and work were living proof that when someone truly believes, the entire universe conspires, not by magic, but because the mind begins to act as a creative force. So, did you like today's content about the power of faith and how it can create the reality you desire? I hope these ideas from Napoleon Hill inspire you to believe more in yourself and your dreams. If this video brought you value, don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel to continue receiving content that can transform your life. Activate the bell so you don't miss any news. And tell me in the comments, what is the greatest desire you want to make come true using faith? I'd love to read and answer. Thanks for being here. See you in the next video.